Dark shapes outside spacecraft windows, objects changing direction in orbit, live ISS feeds cutting out the seconds something strange appears, NASA footage that's been argued over for decades, and Russian space station recordings showing strange formations nobody can fully explain. From Apollo missions to modern ISS cameras, this is disturbing space footage that scientists could not explain. What you're looking at here is footage from a NASA mission in 1991 showing multiple objects leaving Earth's atmosphere. Video came from Space Shuttle Discovery during mission STS-48, and for more than 30 years, people have argued over what's actually in the footage. Some think it's just ice particles drifting near the shuttle, others think one of the objects moves in a way that simply should not be possible. The clip was recorded on September 15th, 1991. While Discovery was orbiting Earth. You could see several glowing objects floating above the planet before one suddenly changes direction after a bright flash appears on screen. That moment is what turned this into one of the most famous NASA UFO videos ever recorded. Even today, people still slow the footage down frame by frame, trying to figure out what's going on here. Former NASA engineer James Oberg argued the objects were, quote, routine nearby small sunlit debris and got pushed around when shuttle thrusters fired. NASA stuck with that explanation for years, saying the camera was just capturing ice particles reacting to exhaust bursts. Not everyone bought it. Physicist Jack Kasher studied the footage and rejected the idea that the objects were tiny bits of ice flat out, writing that the main object, quote, clearly accelerated and moved above the Earth's airglow, adding that if the normal explanations fail, it would have been an intelligently directed craft. Even on Reddit today, people still argue over whether the flash was just a thruster firing or something stranger. One commenter called it, quote, genuinely one of the most bizarre-looking NASA space videos. In August of 2020, Russian cosmonaut Ivan Vagner was on the ISS recording a time-lapse of the Aurora Australis over Antarctica. Well, something odd floats into the frame. For a few seconds, 5 small objects appear moving together in a tight formation. Vagner shared the footage online and asked, what do you think those are? Meteors, satellites, or ... He also reported it to Roscosmos leadership. The clip was then sent for review to both the Central Research Institute of Machine Building and the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Roscosmos publicly described the footage as, quote, interesting and at the same time mysterious. The time-lapse was captured at 1 frame per second, meaning the full observation window lasted about 52 seconds. Roscosmos spokesman Vladimir Ostemenko said it was too early to make conclusions and that the specialists would need to analyze it further. As of now, though, we still don't have an official explanation. In 2016, viewers watching the ISS live feed noticed something unusual in the distance. The camera normally shows a calm view of Earth, but suddenly this orb appears far away. It looks like it's falling toward Earth, almost like a meteor entering the atmosphere, but it quickly becomes clear that this is not a meteor. The object stops mid-descent and just hovers in place for a few seconds. Before anyone could really process what was happening, the live stream cut out. A YouTuber known as StreetCap1, who often uploads odd International Space Station footage, shared the clip and pointed out how suspicious the timing was. NASA later said it was probably just space debris or a satellite, but was that really the case? Were they covering something up? Well, take a look at this. What you're looking at here is footage from that same live feed, this one from another angle, and this feed didn't cut out. As you can see, the orb descends and hovers in place for a while. What happened after the feed most people were watching cut out though? Well, it flew back up and then zipped off in another direction. We'll play the clip. Keep in mind this is at 2 times the speed. Look at how controlled the movement is. It doesn't look like it's something just drifting in space. It seems to have controlled movement. Would space junk or a satellite descend, hover in place, then fly back up and zoom off like that? Yeah, I don't think so. What is this thing then? No idea, but it's definitely stranger than they tried to make it out to be. This clip comes from a 2006 CNN broadcast covering a space shuttle mission. First, there's an external tank from Space Shuttle Atlantis that's visible, which is not part of the anomaly. The strange part appears later. Take a look at this. Notice the glowing triangular shape moving across the frame? It passes quickly, it's only visible for a brief moment, but it definitely stands out against the dark background of space. YouTuber John Chaser re-uploaded the footage and commented, "This video is not a fake. I simply downloaded it off the NASA website and reposted it here. It's still on their server." What exactly is it though? I'll let you guys be the judge. Share your thoughts down in the comments. This footage comes from the Space Shuttle Endeavour's STS-88 mission in December of 1998. during early construction work on the International Space Station. Astronauts were outside the shuttle installing thermal blankets when one of them came loose. Commander Robert Cabana radios, "Jerry, one of the thermal covers got away from you." Images from the mission show the object drifting away in orbit. NASA later cataloged it and said it eventually burned up in Earth's atmosphere a few days later. Footage and images didn't settle the debate fully. Some viewers argued the object doesn't look like ordinary space debris, saying that NASA was clearly hiding something. Over time, it became linked to the Black Knight satellite theory, which claims the object is actually evidence of an ancient alien satellite that's supposedly been orbiting Earth for thousands of years. And the story has some pretty weird roots. Part of it traces back to strange radio signals picked up in the 50s, before we'd even launched anything into orbit. Nobody could explain them at the time, and that's kind of where the theory started forming. From there, it just kept snowballing. A few random sightings, some odd signal patterns. Never one big official discovery. It was more like all these scattered puzzle pieces that slowly got pulled into that one theory. The Apollo 17 mission has been in the news recently over some newly leaked documents. Newly released Pentagon files say the crew reported seeing multiple unidentified objects in space during the return journey. The documents describe, quote, 3 dots in a triangular formation visible in a NASA photograph, along with what officials called a preliminary analysis, suggesting it could be a physical object. But the real strange part comes from what the astronauts actually said while it was happening. Pilot Ronald Evans described seeing things drifting past the spacecraft, saying, quote, "Now we've got a few very bright particles or fragments or something that go drifting by as we maneuver." Then Harrison Schmitt reacted to what he was seeing outside the window, saying, "There's a whole bunch of big ones on my window, just bright. It looks like the 4th of July." The crew described multiple bright objects appearing at once, moving in different directions, sometimes clustering together, sometimes breaking apart. Commander Eugene Cernan also talked about it in the mission transcripts. According to the Pentagon summary, he described repeating flashing and rotating lights that went on for hours. At one point, he compared what he was seeing to an imposing train headlight and said the activity was constant enough that it even kept him from sleeping. The files also mentioned that Cernan believed what he was seeing wasn't just an optical effect, but something physical in space. And it continues, because the same document release includes earlier Apollo 11 debriefs where Buzz Aldrin also mentioned unusual sightings in space. He described seeing flashing lights while trying to sleep, saying, "I observed what I thought were little flashes inside the cabin, spaced a couple minutes apart." He even mentioned seeing a, quote, "fairly bright light source," which we tentatively ascribed to a possible laser. And finally, another infamous case. In February 1996, Space Shuttle Columbia was testing the tethered satellite system, a 12-mile cable meant to generate electricity by moving through Earth's magnetic field. After 5 hours and 19 kilometers of deployment, the tether snapped, and the satellite floated away. NASA's cameras stayed on, and what they recorded has been debated and analyzed to death in UFO circles ever since. The footage shows dozens of these bright, disc-shaped objects moving around both the shuttle and the tether. Some appear to pass behind the tether, and that is important to keep in mind, because that means they're not just up close at the lens. And using the tether's size as a reference, those objects are enormous, nearly a mile across, some of them. The official explanation came from astronaut Franklin Chang Diaz, who wrote the stuff off as debris. But a witness on the ground in Australia reported seeing 6 bright white objects that same night, one noticeably larger than the others, moving erratically as the shuttle passed overhead. So that's a pretty weird aspect to this case, not so easy to brush off. As always though, what do you all think? And that has been the video. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the